Right, so if we have a look and see how this was marked, even though I wasn't directly involved in ever marking this question, I have marked for UNISA for a good number of years, so I've got a fairly good idea as to how this would have been marked. So they asked you to calculate basic and diluted earnings per share, so numerator divided by denominator, numerator divided by denominator. I would imagine as long as you used your figures, right or wrong, you would have got those half marks. And then for presenting that as rands per share or cents per share, your choice, I think I called it cents by mistake in my calculation, but I think you would have been given a half and a half there too. So that would have been 3 of the 23 marks on offer. Really straightforward. You could have sucked those numbers out of your thumb for all UNISA cares there. All right. Then, as far as how we got those numbers, so we had net profit attributable to the parent. That I think would have been worth 1. We had the cumulative preference dividend. I think that would have been worth 1. And then the fact that the convertible prefs did not affect your earnings, I think that would have been worth 1. All right. And then looking at those things that had a dilutionary effect, essentially we did this dilutive anti-dilutive calculation. So I reckon they would have started off with, okay, your basic numbers are a half, 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 right? Then they would have said the convertibles, the prefs did not affect your earnings, nor did the contingently issuable shares. The number of shares that your ordinary shares would go up by was 60,000. If you remember correctly, that was 20 times 3, so a half and a half would be 1. And then for the contingently issuables, it was 75,000, if you remember, times 8 over 12. So that would also be worth 1. And that would give us 145. So you take the numerator divided by the denominator, and you would get the answer and say that is dilutive, a half, a half, a half for that arithmetic. Right. Then you take the thing that was ranking number 2. Okay, so the rankings I think would have been a half a mark each. And then the thing that was ranking number 2, 20,87. Obviously we needed the numbers there. So to get those numbers we had to do this calculation over here. And I would imagine they gave you 250,000 is a half. NI payments, I think the payments and the I, they would have given you 1 mark, because the I you had to choose the fair rate, and the payment you had to multiply the nominal value 250,000 by the 10% nominal rate. All right, and that gave you this debt to equity split over here, which you then said, right, well, we're now in period 4, so I want for period 4, what is the interest? Let's do that again. So for period 4, what is the interest? So I should have thought that was with 1, 2, 3, 4 marks in total. All right. And then the tax effect on that, I should have thought is another mark. So let's just add 1 to it here, because we did it just now, plus 1 for the tax effect. So 5 marks in total, I think, for that part of the calculation. And then you added that 2870 to your earnings number. You added 10,000, which was 100,000 times 1 over 10, a half, to your denominator values, and that gave you numerator, denominator, and you concluded that was anti-dilutive, which is why we took that particular figure out of our reconciliation of the numerator. Okay, and we took it out of the reconciliation of the denominator. Not that they asked for the notes, but that shows you, that's how I always think about it. Okay, I do my recon of the numerator and recon of the denominator, put everything in there, and then time permitting, I do this dilutive, anti-dilutive calculation. So in all, that was worth 3, and this was worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and a half. Let's make it 11. All right, and that gives me a total of 11, 12, 13, 14, plus the 5 there is 19, plus the 3 there is 22, and I think the question was out of 23, so yeah, possibly this was out of 12, not 11. Okay, that gives you a fair idea as to how the marks are awarded and where and what they gave you marks for.